Standing here with offshore icon Mr. Peter Meyer, Team Instigator, Super V Unlimited. Peter, you got the Fountain now, but let's talk about your other boats. Let's take you back, do a little nostalgic trip down memory lane, and talk about how it all got started for you back in the day.
Well, memory lane goes a long way. It'll be 30 years this year. I started out in '82 with my boat, the Lady L, which I bought off of Tony Licaro, and I raced with Tony and Thomas Lampus for a few years, probably 10 years. And we were racing in the showboat with NPBA and APBA and OPT. We raced
the alphabet.
Yeah. U.S. Offshore, Bill Gifford. I mean, there's a legend that's a great man himself. I mean, he started that up, and we raced against him. He had a B-boat. We had a B-boat. Raced against Joe Scrow, who had the Fever. There was, back then, there was 28 boats, B-boats in a class. And it was great racing. It was only a couple years ago that I realized that it was my first race was the same race that Jesse James started in 1982 at the showboat. And I think you've seen an article or two where their boat actually went over the back end of us, and it was my first race, and the steering broke, and I was laying on the floor, laying back in my bolster, and I said, and I see this boat go over the top of us, and I'm looking at the drives, and when it was all over and done with, I said, boy, is this what boat racing all about? I said, man, I'm in. And
getting your head taken off, you're in.
Yeah. I'm in or I'm out. I'm done. Anyway, but that's what makes it so exciting, the thrill. But other than exciting, there's been, can't even mention the great people Rocky Aoki and Al Copeland Jr. and there's so many, Stan Ware, and there's been so many great races over the years that probably even passed us by. I'm terrible with names anyway, but they're legendary like Don Arano. Just that, it's 30 years and people start to forget, and when I'm gone after a couple of years, they'll forget about me too. But it's been an incredible run for the 30 years.
You mentioned Production B. Now for the SBI fans that are new to the sport, compare what like Production B was then to what we have now.
Production B was equivalent probably of it was only a 65 to 85 mile an hour boat, because that was real fast back then, which is now a P2 or a P3 boat. But in reality, a B boat was actually comparably would be like a P1 boat nowadays, which would be going 117, 20 miles an hour. So it's the same boat, but we've gone with canopies. It's been a lot more safer. Nobody really gets thrown out of the boat, and nobody's getting as hurt as much. As I mentioned, the first time I did it, yes, somebody could have gotten hurt. Now we're in the canopy. I feel safe and sound. I got roll bars and thick plexiglass. There's a lot of 5-point harnesses, oxygen. There's a lot of safety that really goes into it, and as long as you adhere to it, you won't get hurt.
B-boat's twin engine, and lengthwise, how long?
Well, mine's a 40-foot. Back then, everybody was a 27, 28-foot boat, and you had the old Novas and the old Signatures and the old cigarettes, and everybody, they were all stole the same idea. I mean, it was no different. They all came out of Thunder Row and Don Arano, and they were all 28-foot. I got a cigarette, I got this and that. But they went to Tempest, and one guy in Tommy Adams' boat, which is a Signature. They all kind of took the same design, changed it a little bit, and we all had the same boat. So back then, back in '82 when I started, everybody was pretty comparable.
But not all the boats were built in South Florida, although most of them, because you had another very, very successful boat, a little bit bigger, I think it was about 32 feet in length, the Activator, built on your hometown of Long Island area.
Correct. Well, that was my next venture. From there, I went to the 32 Activator, built by Mark Schneff, Activator boats, and that lasted me about 10 years. I ran that for 10 years and won a world championship or two with that, and had a great experience. With that, Joe Scrow kind of teamed up with me at the end of that, and we went, that's where me and Joe kind of started getting together, and we raced together, and that was a 3-man stand-up bolster. And after that, we went to our fountain. We had a 42-foot fountain, me and Joe. We went to Reggie, and in the Worlds, when we won the Worlds in '89, Reggie came up to me and he goes, you know, you're not going to beat us. But when we did beat him, he came up to us. He says, I want you guys in one of my boats for next year. And we did. We went to Reggie, and Reggie is a very, very smart individual. He's an icon in racing. I wish I could start all over with him 40 years ago, and we'd be doing very well. And Reggie has all my respect. I mean, he has a lot of knowledge there. But anyway, we went on from the 40. We raced, that was actually a 40. We raced that, and that was, you know, in the Super V class, and we ran against Firewater, and there's another name, Bob Oliver, who's, you know, he's a piece of work in himself. Anyway, but we had some really great times, and he was with Cintron, and that's kind of where I met Johnny Stanch back in that era when they were in the Firewater, and there was Stanch and Stanch and him that were racing against us. And then from there, me and Joe had a little, I don't know, little split somewhere along the line. Actually, before that, we bought the old Dragon Lady. We ran that for a few years. Then we had this other new 40-foot boat Reggie built, which is now his new, which is his 42-foot open, like pleasure boat, the four-seater pleasure boat. We put a canopy on that, and we kind of perfected that boat for Reggie at our expense. But anyway, that's a great poker run now. Then after that, we ended up going to this 42-footer. I went to this 42-footer and had made where Joe went to another, well, he went to one more 40-footer and it burned up in Miami. I went to this one and got this 42-footer from Reggie. Then Joe went to Outer Limits with Mike Fiore, and they designed a lot of new technology, and they've had their ups and downs. And it's funny how me and Joe raced against each other so fiercely way back when, and in the last 3 or 4 years, especially when we get down to the Worlds, we've really raced each other fiercely again. So it all comes around. No matter, it's like the wheel, and what comes around goes around. And funny how this weekend I'm gonna see how the other half rides. I'm gonna actually let Johnny Stanch and Joe Scrow run my boat for the first time together, just to see how two other icons can run the boat without me being in it. So, you know, that you learn something from everybody, and maybe this weekend I could pick, you know, with the two of them in the boat, getting a different perspective. They're both going to come back and report to me differently, because when we go back to Key West, you always take that little bit of knowledge. You always take the knowledge when Jeff from Freeze Frame, you know, films the thing and he sees the boat turn this way, turn that way. If you watch, you know what you're looking for, you'll buy those films, because that's what you need to know to win. You need to know when the guy's in the boat, if Johnny's steering the boat, or Joe's steering the boat, or Johnny's throttling and I'm throttling. You know, I know Johnny thinks I'm the best throttleman in the world, and I have to agree with him. But, I mean, no, slam myself on my back there. But, I think the two of them in the boat this week, you know, ought to be very interesting. You know, here in New York, you know, in the anniversary of September 11th and everything else, and it should be pretty interesting.
Well, it's always interesting talking to you, because I don't know of anybody else who's currently active that's been doing this longer than you have, and certainly not as successfully as you have been over the years in offshore racing. And we look forward to many, many more decades of this man, this icon, Peter Meyer, being out there on the liquid racetrack, showing us just how to do it in an offshore powerboat.
Stan,
Thanks a lot, Pete.
Stan, I want to say one person I did miss is Billy Moff, and he has been with me the whole 30 years. And don't ever take anything away from Billy Moff. Billy Moff is such a competitive racer. And the plumber, I take my hat off to the plumber too. I mean, there's another man. I mean, there's so many people, but I did miss him a little bit. Thank you. Thank you, Stan. Yeah.
Well, Billy Moff is here in New York this weekend. He's got two boats. He's got the 40-foot skater. He brought the smaller superboat, stock boat, the outboard powered boat this week to race. But look forward to seeing Billy Moff out there. This is his kind of stomping grounds too.
Yeah,
you know?
we have to share. This is both me and Billy. This is and Joe Scrow Johnny comes to Jersey, he's gonna understand Jersey. You know what they say about Jersey. Anyway, but this is they call it the New York race. Billy Moff, myself, Joe Scrow. This is our own home turf, and this is why we come out, we promote it, and everything else.
You heard it from the man, Peter Meyer.